What if I told you that giving up intimacy after 60 doesn't just fade quietly into the background? It can silently break your heart, cloud your memory, weaken your muscles, and trap you inside a body that no longer feels like your own. Not years from now, Brian, but far sooner than you imagine. And once it starts, the decline is hard, almost impossible, to undo. I'm Dr. James, a men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience helping older men across America reclaim their strength, confidence, and independence. I've seen it too many times. Men who slowly gave up intimacy, not realizing they were surrendering more than just physical pleasure. They were letting go of the very rhythm of life that kept them vibrant and alive. I remember one patient in particular, 74 years old, passed away quietly in his sleep. The official cause? Natural. But in truth, he had abandoned something far more essential than medication or diet. He had let go of the one connection that could have kept his body, mind, and spirit active. That loss wasn't inevitable. It was preventable. You see, the very act that so many older men avoid, sometimes out of embarrassment, sometimes from misinformation, is actually one of the keys to preserving more than just sexual wellness. It supports blood flow. It balances hormones. It protects emotional resilience, brain clarity, even cardiovascular health. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about protecting the best parts of yourself, your strength, your independence, your will to engage with the world. In today's video, I'm going to uncover the hard truths about masturbation that thousands of older men wish they had learned decades ago. You'll discover why staying sexually active, even privately, isn't just normal. It's necessary for your body, for your brain, for your vitality. And stay with me until the end, because I'll also share the #1 most overlooked daily habit, the smallest shift, that could either protect or quietly sabotage your energy for years to come. Before we go further, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another video created specifically to help men like you stay strong, connected, and thriving at every stage of life. And if something in this message is already hitting home, type 1 in the comments. If there's something you wish I'd go deeper into, type 0. This isn't a lecture. It's a conversation, and I'm here to listen. Now let's begin with the first truth that's hardest to hear, but most important to understand. 1. The silent decline. No one warned you about. After working with thousands of men over the years, I've come to recognize a certain kind of sadness, one that cuts deeper than illness or injury. It's the sadness of men who were once strong, proud, vibrant, slowly fading into fatigue, fog, and frailty. Not because of one traumatic event, but because of a long, quiet erosion they never saw coming. You know the kind of story. They think they're aging gracefully. They believe they're doing the noble thing, letting go of sexuality because that part of life is over. But in doing so, they unintentionally surrender far more than desire. They lose vitality. They lose muscle tone. They lose mental sharpness, emotional resilience, even their independence. And most don't even realize it until it's too late. Never forget a man named Robert. He was 72 when he came to see me, but he looked closer to 85. Shoulders hunched, skin pale and thin, voice soft and shaky. He hadn't engaged in any sexual activity, not even private touch, for over 15 years. He told me he thought it was the dignified thing to do. He was proud of having moved on from that stage of life. But as he sat across from me, eyes welling with tears, he admitted something I'll never forget. I feel like a ghost of the man I was. His memory was failing. His muscles were wasting. Even small tasks exhausted him. And then he whispered, if someone had just told me, if I'd kept that part of myself alive, maybe I wouldn't feel like half a man today. Robert's story isn't rare. It's the silent story of millions of men. When sexual energy is suppressed for too long, the body responds by turning down essential systems, circulation, hormone production, neural sensitivity. The signs begin subtly. A little more fatigue, a little more forgetfulness, a little less drive. But over time, it snowballs. And when it does, it's hard to stop. No one tells men this. No one explains that intimacy, yes, even solo intimacy, is about more than pleasure. It's about preservation. Real aging isn't about letting go of who you were. It's about protecting who you still are. And if someone had looked Robert in the eye at 50 or 60 and said, "Don't give this part of yourself up. It matters more than you know," how different would his story have been? But it's not too late for you, because the very thing many men avoid might be the key to keeping your brain sharp, your body strong, and your soul connected. And in the next section, I'll show you exactly why masturbation, done with awareness and intention, isn't just about pleasure. It's about protecting your future. 2. Why masturbation isn't just about sex. It's about survival. For most of my career, I've watched men treat their sexuality as if it were some old garment, something they once wore proudly, but now consider too small, too out of place, to be part of their aging lives. They quietly tuck it away, thinking it's no longer relevant, no longer necessary. But what they never realized, what I so desperately wish more men were told, is that sexuality was never just about pleasure. It was about survival. It was about strength, circulation, hormone balance, emotional clarity, and vitality. Giving it up was never something nature designed us to do. It was something society quietly convinced us to surrender. I remember Frank, a retired firefighter, 68. Tough exterior, firm handshake. But behind that was a man who had slowly dimmed. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he told me. "No sex, no masturbation. I figured that's what a dignified man does after a certain age." But with that choice, his spark began to vanish. First came fatigue, then foggy thinking, then subtle leg weakness. All things he chalked up to age until they piled up and left him feeling like a shadow of who he used to be. And that's when he said something that stuck with me ever since. If someone had just told me what I was giving up, I never would have let it go so easily. You see, masturbation isn't a leftover luxury from youth. It's maintenance. It's blood flow. It's hormone regulation. It's keeping arteries open, nerves alive, muscles supported, and the mind clear. When we abandon it, those systems start to decline quietly. Not overnight, but slowly, and then suddenly. You wake up weaker. You forget more. You lose emotional resilience. You think it's just aging. But what if it's not? There's nothing noble about letting your body decay faster than necessary. There's nothing dignified about giving up the one practice that keeps so many of your systems working. Even if it's just in private. Even if it's quiet and slow. Even if no one else knows. I often wonder if someone had told Frank at 55, "Keep your blood moving, keep your nerves firing, keep your spirit alive." How many more stairs would he have climbed? How many clearer mornings might he have lived? The tragedy isn't getting old. Aging is beautiful when done consciously. The tragedy is surrendering before we have to. And here's the deeper truth. Even if your body changes, even if erections become less dependable, your ability to feel, to climax, and to connect hasn't disappeared. It's only evolved. 3. You can still reach orgasm. Even without a perfect erection. One of the cruelest myths I've ever seen destroy. A man's hope is this. If you can't get a rock-hard erection, your days of pleasure are over. It's a lie. And yet, so many men believe it. They believe they're broken, that their body has betrayed them. That intimacy is something now off limits. They walk away from something that could still bring them joy, closeness, connection. Not because it's gone, but because no one ever told them the truth. I remember Harold, ex-Marine, grip like iron, even at 67. He sat in my office on a rainy afternoon, staring out the window and softly said, "Doc, I think it's over. I can't perform like I used to. That part of me is just done." I asked gently, "Harold, has anyone ever told you that climax and erection aren't the same thing? That an orgasm doesn't require a perfect erection? That your pleasure is still waiting for you?" He turned and looked at me with a stunned silence, a silence heavy with years of grief and quiet shame. The truth is this: Your body's capacity for pleasure does not disappear. It simply changes form. And for many men, what they discover after 60 isn't the end of intimacy. It's a deeper, slower, more mindful kind of satisfaction. It may take more patience. It may require new techniques or even new tools. But the pathway is still open. Even when the body shifts, even when responses aren't what they once were, your pleasure center remains alive. Like an ember beneath the ashes, waiting to be stirred back to life. If Harold had known that, if someone had just told him years earlier that he wasn't broken, how different might his life have been? How many hugs might he have welcomed instead of retreating? How many moments of joy might he have embraced instead of feeling undeserving? It devastates me how many men have mourned something that was never truly gone, only misunderstood. You are not less of a man. You are still whole, still capable, still worthy of pleasure. The problem was never your body. The problem was the silence. And the silence ends here. Because next, we're going to talk about something even more powerful than physical sensation. We're going to explore how staying sexually active isn't just good for your body. It's critical for your emotional health, your self-worth, and your will to live. And what you'll learn in the next few minutes might just change the way you see yourself forever. 4. The emotional lifeline. Most older men overlook. There is a quiet cost to giving up intimacy. One that isn't listed in the pamphlets at your doctor's office or discussed over coffee with friends. It doesn't appear on test results. It doesn't raise a red flag on your blood work. But I've seen it again and again unfold in the lives of good men who believed they were simply accepting the natural process of growing old. What they didn't know, what no one warned them about, is that letting go of their intimate life wasn't just about losing pleasure. It was about losing one of the most powerful emotional lifelines that keeps the human spirit vibrant and alive. I think of George, a widower in his early 70s. He came into my office not because of illness, but because something inside him had quietly faded. His vitals were fine. His heart and lungs were doing their job. But there was something missing in his eyes. A stillness. A hollowness. He told me that ever since his wife passed, he had abandoned all forms of sexual activity. Even private intimacy. It felt wrong, he said softly. It felt selfish. So he let that part of himself go. He thought he was being respectful, noble even. At first, he barely noticed the shift. A bit more fatigue, a few more restless nights, less excitement to get up in the morning. But as months passed into years, George found himself wrestling with waves of sadness, loneliness, and emotional detachment he couldn't explain. He joined social clubs. He tried gardening, volunteering, even Sunday service, but nothing filled the quiet ache that had rooted itself inside him. One day, he looked at me, tears clinging to the edges of his voice, and said, "I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't know I was slowly letting my own light go out." And science now confirms what George's heart already knew. Sexual activity, yes, even solitary, isn't just about pleasure. It's about emotional survival. It regulates cortisol. It releases dopamine and oxytocin. It lifts your mood. It reaffirms your aliveness. It keeps the brain sharp, the heart open, and the spirit engaged. When we abandon it, the body quietly shifts toward imbalance. Stress increases, isolation deepens, depression creeps in, and resilience, the emotional muscle that keeps us bouncing back, starts to weaken. I've heard the same confession over and over again, often in hushed voices, often through tears. I feel invisible. Not because anyone told them they don't matter, but because they stopped touching the part of themselves that reminded them they do. What's remarkable is how quickly things can change. I've seen men in their late 70s, even 80s, come back to life, not through fantasy or chasing lost youth, but by giving themselves permission to reconnect with their own body. Quietly, gently, with care. It's not shameful. It's not selfish. It's human. And if George had known that tending to his private self wasn't a betrayal of grief, but a beautiful act of healing. How much loneliness might he have been spared? How many mornings might he have greeted with a spark instead of a sigh? Because the tragedy isn't aging. Aging is natural, even sacred. The tragedy is being taught that we must age by severing the very lifelines that keep us human. But it doesn't have to be that way. Even now, wherever you are in your journey, it's not too late. You can choose connection over numbness, vitality over resignation. And all it takes is a single decision to say, I still matter, I still feel, I still live. But as profound as emotional disconnection can be, there is a deeper danger that most men never see coming. Because when intimacy fades, too silent, forces begin to accelerate physical decline in ways few people understand. In the next part, I'll reveal what those forces are, and how staying connected to your body could be the difference between thriving or simply surviving. 5. Fear and shame. The hidden enemies of vitality. If there is one force more destructive than aging itself, it is fear. Not fear of illness, not fear of pain, but fear of judgment. Fear of being seen as weak. Fear of becoming irrelevant. Fear of wanting what the world says you should have outgrown. And right behind that fear walks shame. Quiet, poisonous, and relentless. Shame is the silent thief. It doesn't scream. It doesn't rush. It simply waits in the background, whispering that you no longer have the right to desire, to feel, to be fully alive. I've seen it countless times in my practice. It's not the wrinkles or slower metabolism that truly wear a man down. It's the heavy, hidden belief that he's no longer allowed to be a passionate, sexual, expressive human being. I think of Alan, a former high school teacher beloved by generations of students. He was witty. He was warm. A leader. A mentor. But when he came to see me at 71, the man sitting across from me looked like a shadow of who he used to be. He wasn't battling disease. He was battling something far quieter, but far more dangerous. A lifetime of unspoken shame. As we talked, he revealed something deeply personal. Sometime in his 50s, he had decided, all on his own, that his intimate life was over. Not because his body had failed, but because he believed society expected it of him. He feared being seen as foolish, needy, or worse, undignified. So he quietly shut the door on that part of himself. He stayed active. He volunteered. He doted on his grandkids. But something inside began to shrink. His energy dimmed. His laughter became less frequent. His spark, the one that once lit up every classroom he stood in, grew fainter with each passing year. And then one day, sitting alone in his living room, surrounded by silence, Alan realized something that broke him. I thought I was doing what a good man should do, he said, tears running down his cheeks. I thought I was aging with grace. But what I really did was abandon myself. Alan's story is not rare, and it's not about weakness. It's about what happens when men internalize the message that to grow older means to grow quiet, invisible, and untouched. Fear and shame are not harmless emotions. They corrode, they eat away at confidence, identity, and joy from the inside out. They convince men that their desires are wrong, that their very humanness is something to be locked away, and in doing so, they accelerate the exact decline that so many are trying to avoid. But here's the truth. Staying sexually connected to yourself is not foolish. It's not desperate. It's resilient. It is an act of courage, a declaration that says, I still matter. I still feel. I will not fade quietly. If Alan had known earlier, if someone had told him that seeking pleasure, even in solitude, was not selfish but sacred, how much more color might his life have held? How many more mornings might have started with lightness instead of weight? Because every man who has ever quietly packed away his desires deserves to hear this. You do not need to surrender your vitality to meet the world's expectations. Your strength, your soul, your joy, they are not things to be hidden. They are yours to protect, yours to nurture, yours to celebrate. And if you believe that reclaiming your sexuality is only about feeling good, think again. Because in the next part, I'm going to show you how a simple daily practice, one that involves both intimacy and movement, can reignite your circulation, rebuild lost muscle, and awaken a sense of power that many men think is gone forever. Stay with me, because the best is still ahead. 6. A simple daily practice to reclaim what aging tries to steal. There's something almost cruel about the way aging creeps in. Not like a sudden storm, but like a slow leak in the hull of a once mighty ship. A little less strength here, a little less sharpness there, until one morning you look in the mirror and don't quite recognize the man staring back at you. But the true tragedy isn't that this happens. It's that so much of the decline we accept as normal aging could have been slowed, or even prevented, with a few simple acts of quiet defiance. I think of Samuel, a retired carpenter, a man whose hands had once built homes and cradled grandkids with equal care. When he came, to me at 75, he called it the slow surrender. His legs ached after just a few steps. He couldn't open jars. His spirit, once lively and light, was dulled by frustration. And then he said something I'll never forget. "Doc, I just stopped. I stopped moving. I stopped touching. I stopped doing anything that reminded me of the man I used to be. I thought I was supposed to." But Samuel hadn't been defeated by age. He had been defeated by inaction. You see, the body is more forgiving than we give it credit for, if you meet it halfway. Even after years of stillness, the smallest steps toward reconnection can trigger profound transformation. It doesn't take a gym. It doesn't take a miracle. It takes consistency. A 10-minute stretch. A walk around the block. Deep breaths in the morning. And yes, even gentle private intimacy once or twice a week. Not out of desperation, but out of respect for the body that has carried you this far. These actions may seem small, but they send a massive signal. Stay strong. Stay awake. Stay ready. Science supports this fully. Regular movement improves blood flow, protects joints, keeps muscles from wasting. And sexual activity, yes, even solitary, boosts hormones that protect memory, mood, and motivation. And here's to living life on your own terms. That's why when Samuel began again, walking, stretching, reconnecting, his energy returned. His smile came back. He laughed louder. He told me, "I feel more like myself again." And every time I think of him, I feel both pride and sadness. Pride for the strength he reclaimed. Sadness for the years he believed he wasn't allowed to fight for it. Because reclaiming your vitality isn't about heroics. It's about humble, daily choices. Strength isn't lost overnight. It's surrendered inch by inch. And it can be taken back the same way. But there's still one piece left to this puzzle. Something even more foundational than movement or intimacy. Because what good is a strong body if the spirit quietly fades? Let's talk about what truly sustains life after 60, 70, and beyond. 7. Final words before we continue. As I sit here and reflect on the countless men I've spoken with over the years, one truth becomes painfully clear. Aging isn't the real enemy. Isolation is. And the most dangerous kind of isolation isn't the kind that happens when you live alone. It's the kind that happens when you slowly disconnect from your own body, your desires, your sense of being fully, vividly alive. Most men don't make this choice consciously. They don't want to fade. They just think it's what's expected of them. They think dignity means silence. That growing old means giving up the parts of themselves that once burned bright. I think of Leonard, 78 years old. On paper he was fine. Good labs, steady heartbeat. But the heaviness in his eyes said everything his charts couldn't. He told me he had stopped reaching out, not just sexually but emotionally. He didn't call friends. He didn't go out. He didn't touch anyone. Not even himself. I thought I was supposed to bear it quietly, he said. I thought that was what being strong meant. But that quiet strength was slowly killing him. Not his body, but his spirit. He would sit for hours, watching life pass from his window, feeling more like a ghost than a man. I wish I had fought harder to stay connected, he said, voice trembling. I wish I had known it mattered. Because it does matter. It matters. More than most of us will ever admit. We are not meant to live untouched, unseen, unneeded. Connection is not a luxury, it's oxygen. And when we deny it, we don't grow stronger. We grow quieter, smaller, colder. If Leonard had known sooner that touch, laughter, affection, even in the simplest forms, were essential to living, not optional, how many more sunsets might he have watched with peace instead of sorrow? How many more years might have been filled with purpose, not emptiness? But here's the truth I want you to carry forward. It is never too late. No matter how many years have passed, no matter what you've lost, the door is still open. One small step, one breath, one choice to reconnect. That's all it takes to begin. Conclusion. This is not the end. It's the beginning. Aging is not a sentence. It is not the end of vitality, purpose, or connection. It is a transition, a new chapter. One that can either drain you or reveal a strength you never knew you had. Every man you've met today, Robert, Frank, Harold, George, Alan, Samuel, Leonard, they all taught the same lesson. The tragedy isn't aging. The tragedy is giving up too soon. And you don't have to. You can still move your body. You can still feel your own touch with pride. You can still choose joy, choose purpose, choose life. You were never meant to grow old in silence. You were meant to grow older with intention, with courage, with connection. The slow fading of life is not your destiny. The flame inside you is still burning. And the next chapter of your story is still being written. You hold the pen. Write it boldly. Write it with presence. Write it with the unshakable truth that the best parts of you are not behind you. They are waiting to be lived, fully and unapologetically, right now. These lessons were created to help you live more fully, more authentically. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share. What's one thing you've learned today that you plan to apply in your own life? Let's support each other in this journey of renewal, of courage, of connection. If this video touched you, please leave a comment with a 1. If you'd like to see something different, comment 0. Your feedback means the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Wise Elders Legacy, for more content designed to help you thrive at every age. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying.